Okay. All right. All right. Awesome. So just a little bit, let me just share and we can get started. Right. Here we are. So you should be able to see the presentation on my screen. And welcome, everybody. Just a little bit about me. My name is Olga St Pierre. I am a real estate agent and senior living specialist. Have been in the business working with seniors and helping seniors and their families for the last 15 years. Just a little bit about us. Our team works and helps seniors and families live well at home. And if the move is necessary for various reasons, we do help make the move around the United States and Canada. And really, our goal is to be your resource from start to finish, your virtual yellow pages for any kind of resources that you may need that pertain to you, the home that you live in, as well as the resources that you may need to have a safe and comfortable retirement, whatever that may look like to you, because all of you have different situations. Our concierge service is a resource guide for you. Please don't go to just random Joe on Google and internet and reach out to them. Please, I encourage you to use us as your virtual yellow pages for resources, for information. And if we don't have something, we're going to get it for you. So that is just a little bit about us. And the plan for today is what I want to talk to you is questions that you may want to ask yourself and some food for thought for you about living the best retirement that you can and staying in your home if that is possible. So there are some questions that I'm going to ask you to ask yourself. That's going to be your homework about making plans, doing financial considerations, and what I would suggest that you do next. So if you don't have a retirement journal of some sort, some of you, I see familiar faces and names, I encourage you to have a notebook separate to jot down your thoughts that are pertaining to your planning, whether you are in the process of planning for retirement or you are in the position where, or you are already enjoying your golden years, yet now you have some decisions to make. Do we stay? Is our home getting too big? Maybe our health is starting to deteriorate and we need to make some decisions. So with that said, we have our notebook and our pen. Some food for thought for you. 77% of the Americans over the age of 50 and older, according to AARP, they want to retire and stay at their home throughout the golden years. And we totally understand that. And what I want you to take away today, after you gave it some more thought, because all of you have your situation very much different, is the fact that planning, unfortunately, probably 90% of seniors are not doing. And that is extremely critical and important because the planning should be started and kind of thought through long before it becoming apparent that you're going to need help, that maybe the stairs are starting to get too difficult and you can't make it to the basement because that's where your laundry is and the yard is becoming too big. What I want you to take away is that it's always better to do some kind of planning, maybe not everything, but do it before there's a crisis, before we have to be reacting and making decisions based on an emergency. So that's one thing to take away. Another one is, this is what I hear quite often with my clients when we're talking about, and I ask them, how can I help them? And if everything is well, they tell me that my current home is going to be the best possible place to live in my retirement years. And what I want you to think about is this. If you have been in your home for 30, 40 or more years, that was the best home for you in that stage of life when you were purchasing it because you were in the process of perhaps starting a family, or you were upgrading your condo to a bigger home because you now have 2 children instead of 1. And the ideal home that you want now is not going to be the same thing as the home that you were looking for when you were starting your life together with your spouse, as an example. The ideal home is going to evolve throughout your lifetime. So the best home for you right now and where you're heading in the next 10, 15 years is going to be the one that's going to be safe for you, is number one. Make sure that it provides you the freedom, the convenience, and better care, and absolutely less worry. Number two, my current home is the best option to continue to have the active social life that I do have, to make sure that I'm staying connected with my friends. And what I can tell you is that that might be what you're thinking, but I encourage you to actually talk to your friends and acquaintances to see what their plans are. If you may be thinking about staying, your situation is different from them. And that could also mean that they may be moving away and making their own plans, which means that your home can then result in growing isolation, loneliness, because your friends have other plans. It is going to be less expensive and more financially secure for me to stay in my current home. And that is a big if, and you can put a couple of little asterisks next to it, because here's why. Most of the time people think about the fact that, well, I don't have a mortgage anymore, my house is paid off. I want you to think about the age and the health of your home as well, in addition to yours. You have monthly expenses to maintain your home, and those don't change. And a lot of the times they're increasing, right? The homeowner's insurance is going to be increasing. The property taxes are increasing whether you like it or not. If you have HOA fees, they typically go up on a regular basis. And what else you're going to have, if you haven't thought about it, are the big ticket items that are a component of your home. And this is where I'm talking about the roof, your siding, your windows, your foundation, your heating and air conditioning. These are the big components in the health of your home that if you haven't done any updating and upgrading, there's a very good chance that you have to do that. And as you can imagine, if you, just to give you some rough ideas, if you wanted to replace a heating and air conditioning system in your home, it's at least $10,000 to $15,000. If you're looking at a new roof, it's $20,000 or more, depending on the square footage. If you need to replace windows, they run between $700 to $1,000 per window. So these things are not cheap. And a lot of the times you have to do 50% upfront and then the other 50% when the job is done. So I really want you to think about these things that you may have costs associated with your home. They're only going to get bigger if you don't realize and you don't plan for it. And the next one is, it would be easy for me to get any care that I need at home, have somebody come in and help me out. And I can tell you that care at home can be difficult. It can be costly. It can be unreliable. And there is quite a bit of planning that needs to be done by various doctors and other professionals to help you, where things may slip through the cracks. And that is just too dangerous to ignore. So this is what we're talking about today. These are some of the questions that I really want you to ask yourself. So let's talk about your home. The number one concern I always have, and this is what I want to pose to you, is if you love your home because it's been a place where you raised your family and you have so many memories and you have the comfort in this structure, I understand. But I want you to ask yourself, number one concern, is your home safe? Does your home need some modifications? And I have some examples here for you. I'm going to email you with the copy of the recording, a copy of the home safety assessment. This is a couple of pages document, but it's really walking you through the home and asking you the important questions that you need to know, and saying, let's walk through your home and look at it on the interior as well as the exterior. And is your home safe for you? So what we're talking about here is tripping hazards, lighting, safety, security, from outside going inside every floor in the home. So for example, for technology, you should have exterior camera to help you with like a Ring doorbell, another camera potentially above your garage to help you to know who's coming and going. At home, Alexa or Google Home are a good security systems to have, and other security systems that are out there on the market right now. And I also added some pictures here to help you, that if you're going to be doing some modifications or renovations, think about how you can add things that are going to make it easier for you based on your health concerns. And again, this is where you know yourself best. Seated working area, perhaps in the kitchen. Pull-out cabinetry when you have pantry and other cabinets, variable counter heights, no slips, 0-step entrance, and making sure like in your living spaces to make sure that if you have a transition going from one flooring type to another, let's say from carpet to hardwood, you have a smooth transition so that way you don't have a tripping hazard, okay? And as we continue, some other things that I want you to think about is, do you have too much stuff? I'm sure in the 30 to 40 years that you lived in your home, you have accumulated quite a few things, including furniture. And I want you to think about this, is that if you ever have the need to be able to move around with a walker or a wheelchair, do you have enough airspace to do so safely? So ideas would be to have a safe room by room flow where you can actually create a floor plan and put some things down and say, you know what, this is what I need. This is the space that I need of about 30 inches for a wheelchair to kind of maneuver around to make sure it's safe. And think about the things that maybe is a good idea to start sorting through and getting rid of them, selling them, donating them, or maybe family getting those items out. It is never too early to declutter. And really what you're doing is right-sizing your things. I don't want you to think about declutter as a negative thing. It's absolutely is positive. And the research was done to prove to you that it is absolutely essential for our emotional and physical well-being. You can use a room inventory list to take action where you're sorting things in 4 categories. Again, make it simple. You can get help. If you can't do something yourself, maybe you get dizzy if you're standing up or you kind of, kneeling down, because I can tell you that when you are decluttering and you're putting things in the right place, it's a workout, which is actually a good thing because all of us should be moving every day. You can get helper to help you and do some of these things. I encourage you to set mini goals where you do a little bit every day on a regular basis, and you can use your trash and recycle days to get things out of your house and schedule appointments with yourself to get that work done. Selling and donating items and so forth. This information is kind of like a little mini version, a little summary of what we talk about in our Declutter Stress-Free workshop. So you're welcome to join us. I'm going to post a link to our schedule our workshops. Our Declutter we run every month on Zoom is to help you get motivated, where we dive in a little bit deeper on how you can do this right sizing in every room of your home and help you create a plan. And creating a home modification improvement list is what you would need to do if your home needs to get some work done to make sure that it's safe for you. Then you can get 3 to 4 contractor estimates. And of course, we can help you with those recommendations. That's where our concierge service comes in and help you determine the time frame for the work. And then think about the financing of those projects, because right now the labor and materials are not cheap. So you need to plan for that as well. Some examples in each room that I want you to think about that are important. For example, a bedroom, full bathroom, and laundry on the first floor. If you have the ability, if you never use your dining room or your living room, you can absolutely create a bedroom out of those spaces. If you have a 2-story home, that is what I want you to think about. If that is not an option, then perhaps it's time to think about and make some plans about downsizing into a rancher style home, which is basically living on 1 floor. In the bathroom, you can step into showers and you have a bench and grab bars for safety. So this is one of the places where we talk about how do we make the modifications that we need to make sure that your shower area is safe. Installing ramps or in one entryway with no steps, think about that. I can tell you that I have a client right now that it has a house that is a rancher, but the way their entryway is set up is that they can't even do a ramp. It's just so inconvenient and so dangerous that now they have to find another home. We're going to be working on selling their house and finding something else that is a safer place for them. Having smooth exterior walkways is important, and replacing kitchen cabinets with drawers and pull-out shelves so that way it is easier on your back. Some other things to consider: making sure that you have smooth surfaces that you walk on. Hardwood, tile, laminate, and vinyl floors may be a lot easier for wheelchair and for walker maneuvering and better than carpeting. If you have carpeting that is starting to bubble, where you have like folds, it is very dangerous for tripping hazards, and you can try and get it restretched. If not, perhaps it is something where we may want to talk about helping you getting it replaced, and then making a decision on what you're going to replace it with. Easier when your microwaves are placed in stands that are easier to reach. So think about those things, and installing lever type doorknobs is helpful for somebody who may have arthritis or other conditions that have that limit your range of motion. A couple of places that can help, I have included them here. There are some income limitations, but I wanted you to have the ability to know that there are some programs in the community that are helping those individuals that want to age at home, and they want to have a good and safe retirement at home, and have some financial assistance with getting some of these renovations done. So you can reach out each of these programs to get a little bit more information as to what's entitled and what's involved. Some tech tools to make your life easier. I included some examples. I already mentioned to you having like a Google Home or Alexa type of device. There are different ones that are out there in the market. And I can tell you, with the Prime Day coming up as a sale from Amazon, you can find some really good tech items to help you and make your life easier. And just to see what you can do. You can see there's lots of things that you can actually do with them by just using your voice. You can call family members, you can order groceries, you can create a grocery list, turn the lights on and off, and then set reminders for different things, which I think is great. So when we're talking about financial considerations, and this is where we talk about the fact that just because you have a home that is mortgage-free, that's not it. I really want you to sit down with your notebook and figure out what your true expenses are. And is it perhaps some of the things like yard work or lawn care or caring for your yard and exterior surfaces in the wintertime could become an issue for you as your health can decline, as of course you know yourself better. So I encourage you to use a budget sheet that I can send to you to kind of think about and brainstorm and look at those expenses to see that you can compare that if you were to move into a 55 plus community or perhaps into a life plan community, could that be a better option for you? Because a lot of the costs that you are now incurring right now where you live are not going to be in need when you make that move. So some just food for thought, and some of the questions on here that you can take a look at when you're doing this, when you have the plenty of time and you can think things through. Financial considerations. So we're talking about like what happens if I have Social Security and most of my money is tied into my home. Let's talk about what are some of the other things that you have saved, your personal savings, your investments, if you have pension, if you have Social Security. This is where I do mention to clients about the fact that a reverse mortgage is available. There's been a lot of misconception and myths and bad reputation that was given to a reverse mortgage for many right reasons. I recently did a very good interview with Ken, who is mentioned here, and we really dove in deep and talked about everything there is to know about the reverse mortgage. I talked to some of my clients, I got questions from them. I talked to my parents who are in their 70s, and I also combined my own questions of someone who is a daughter who's caring for aging parents. What are some of the things that we need to know? So when I send you the recording and the workshop for this particular workshop, I'm also going to include a link to that interview because I think you will find it helpful. It is not the right program for everyone. However, it can be a right move for someone who really wants to tap into the equity of their home that can be used for many things. You can use it for at-home care, for home modifications and improvements that we already talked about, and purchasing long-term care and other items as well. You also need to know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid, so that way you understand exactly which services are paid by which program. what Medicare is good for, which plans, as I call it, the alphabet letters apply to what, and also what is Medicaid, because that it is a state-run program and it's different in every state, and that's what's important for you to understand. We also have health insurance if you have a supplemental plan or you have something from your previous employer, long-term care insurance if you purchased it a while back. What is that covered? And also, more importantly, how long it's going to be covering you for. Most plans have limits. And if you are a veteran or a spouse of veteran, there are benefits that are available for qualifying veterans and their spouses with regards to monetary assistance as well as supportive services. As you can see, I kind of mentioned tidbits on different things, and all of this planning is going to take time for you. So this overview is kind of designed to help you start thinking in the right direction and giving you some food for thought of what some of the key points that you really want to consider to decide, is this going to be a right move for me if I want to stay at home, or perhaps a move may be necessary for me. So what I wanted to do now is, there's a couple of other slides, but what I wanted to do, because we have a special guest today that I'm excited about. We have my friend, a professional colleague and a source that is very experienced. Tina is an owner of a home care agency, and I wanted her to come on and talk a little bit more about what does that mean? What kind of services a home care agency can provide to help you age well at home? So Tina, welcome. If you can just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your experience, and then we can ask you some more questions.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Olga, and it's a pleasure to meet everyone on this call. As Olga said, my name is Tina. I'm the owner of Synergy Home Care. Our office is here in Piscataway, and we service several counties here in New Jersey. So I guess, first of all, I just want to commend Olga for such a thorough presentation. So everything that she talked about is absolutely 100%, something that I would always recommend to potential clients. I think it's really, before you think about staying at home, it's really, really important for you to be prepared and to know what steps you need to do right now in order for you to do that. So like at the end of the day, right, if your goal is to stay at home, you need to do the work. Well, ideally, it should have been done even earlier, but it's never too late. If you're in this space right now and you're thinking about it, then if you do those simple steps that Olga has been talking about, and I know it's a long process, but it's never too late to get started on anything, right? Like, because if that's your goal, to stay at home, then you need to do steps every day to make that happen. So where I come in, right? So once, I guess, Olga, I just wanted to clarify. So I guess if you're in a space right now where that's definitely what you want to do, then the next thing is for you to think about the options in terms of care that you're going to need at home, right? So there's different kinds of services that we provide. It could range from companionship, which is really just companionship, meaning like, somebody to take you on errands, take you on doctor's appointments, or simply just to sit with you at home, to give you company for conversation. You could go out for walks, play, kind of engage you in activities that you want to do at home and you don't have anyone to do it with. So that's the first part, just a companionship type. And then this companion caregiver could also help you with errands, to go to the store, to do groceries, to do laundry, to do housekeeping. So it's anything that does not include personal care. So like, if you're still able to do things on your own, then all you're going to need is a companion caregiver. The next type of care would be a certified home health aide, or something that involves personal care. So anything that involves touching, such as, bathing, toileting, feeding, there's all of those activities of daily living that includes touching, that requires, in the state of New Jersey, that's required to be provided by a certified home health aide. So again, you know, when you start thinking about this kind of things, always just make sure though that before contracting a private, because you could also get private caregivers off the street, right? So just be mindful that in the state of New Jersey, there was a recently passed bill under the New Jersey Domestic Workers Bill of Rights, which makes you, if you decide to hire a private caregiver, not through an agency, then it makes you the employer. It makes you technically an employer of that employee, and you know these private caregivers, they're entitled to everything that a domestic worker is entitled to, which, you know, I just want to put it out there because a lot of people they just hire people privately without thinking of the consequences to it. And, you know, that's a difference with working with an agencies, because everything is legitimate, and that you're protected from any kind of liability if something ever happens. If a caregiver has an accident at home, or they decide to sue you for any reason for not paying them correctly, they have all the rights now, because in New Jersey, that bill just got passed last month, and it's called the New Jersey Domestic Workers Bill of Rights. So I think it's important for you, not to scare you guys, but I think it's just an important educational piece that you could start looking into, because at some point, if you know you're going to need care, then you always need to, you have that decision, right, to hire a private versus an agency. Because, you know, agency are, I'm not going to lie, they're definitely more expensive in terms of rates. But then you get the peace of mind knowing that there's no chance of you getting sued or any potential problem. It's handled by the agency from that perspective. So, but anyway, I'm sorry I got off topic there. But so back to what I was saying. So you could, in terms of help at home, you could either get a companion caregiver, a certified home health aide, or a certified home health aide which provides personal care. The third one is we also provide live-in caregivers. So a live-in caregiver is someone who stays at home with you. Obviously, the main criteria is that you need to have an extra room in the house for the live-in caregiver, and that, you know, you provide the meals as well for the live-in caregiver. But I always say that, you know, if you because in terms of the cost, right, there's a big difference with the hourly. And just to give you an idea, the hourly cost right now for a certified home health aide ranges between 35 to 40 per hour. And there's, most agencies have a minimum number of hours per day, which is on the average is about 5 hours minimum per day before they could, in my agency, we also take less than 5 hours, but the rate goes higher. All right. So so the cost is about, as I've said, 35 to 40 per hour. Meanwhile, for a live-in caregiver, on the average is about 350 a day. So I always say that if you are going to need care for at least 10 hours a day, which means if you're going to need care, let's say 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? And that's 10 hours, then you're better. And that would be, if it was hourly, it'll be 35 times 10, that's 350. So if that's the case, you're better off with a live-in caregiver, because then the live-in is there at home with you throughout the night. You always have company with you. So there's an extra layer of security and peace of mind that there is always somebody at home to help you out. So yeah, and then the live-in caregiver can help you with everything else, you know, help you with the laundry, with light housekeeping, with errands, so everything that you can imagine. So so yeah, those are the three main types of care that you can that can be provided to you at home. And for the most part, home care right now is private based. So it's usually paid privately, or the only other insurance that you can use is long-term care insurance. But you know, if you are a VA, or there's a or VA in your family, married to a VA, please know that you have excellent benefits through the VA. All you need to do if you're a VA yourself is get the prescription from go to the VA hospital or clinic, and they will assess you and give you the prescription for it, and that's it. You don't pay for anything. It's a forever benefit that you get as a veteran. And yeah, so is there anything you'd like me more to cover, Olga?
We actually talked about the fact, I think the main interest that people are interested to know is if there are any components of the services that at-home care agency provides, will any of them be covered by Medicare?
Well, right now, there are certain Medicare supplemental policies right now that provide some sort of home care, like maybe like a 2-hour benefit, but not the full range of home care. What I notice right now, what is covered by, again, as I've said, it's certain types of Medicare supplemental insurance that you could ask your existing Medicare if that has the home care component. But if they do, it's usually a very small number of hours that provide help with homemaking. So it could be like what I've seen so far, it's like between just 1 hour a week, something very minimal. That's and the goal is it's really just like homemaking to help with like some light housekeeping. And as I've said, it depends on your Medicare supplemental insurance, and you could ask your Medicare supplemental insurance now if that covers that home care piece of it.
Okay. Well, that's what I was thinking. I think people realized so that kind of goes into what I was talking about, the cost of everything. Where I had clients that hired private at-home caretaker for their parents, and they were lived in, and there was 24-hour care, and it cost them quite a bit of money, but that was their choice, as long as the family or the seniors themselves have the resources to pay for it, understanding that it's coming out of their pocket, a lot of that.
Yeah,
Right?
I know.
Coming
A
from
lot
their
of
savings, right?
Yes, and it's definitely a big chunk of it. So yeah, it's something that everyone needs to be prepared if they want to go that route.
Mhm.
It may still be, it's not cheap either to go in a facility, right? But so, and then you do your analysis, which one works better. But at the end of the day, like Olga's saying, even if the home is paid off, there's all the monthly expenses you have in addition to having that extra person to help you out. So it's definitely a lot of planning that needs to be done, because you don't want to lose to end up with no funds left eventually.
So in your professional experience from working with clients and seeing clients on a regular basis, when do you think for someone it's time for them to consider options of being somewhere else versus continuing with at-home care?
So I think the first, for based on my experience, the first, because like what you've said, everyone, 99% definitely wants to stay at home. But there are times when it may, as much as that's what you may want, right? Certain circumstances may eventually make it clear that it's not the better choice for you. So I think when medically, if there's certain conditions that have that is kind of makes it very difficult to manage at home, then it's probably time to rethink that. So let's say if you have a medical condition where you definitely need like a nurse or like a medical attention, then that is going to be very, very costly to do at home, because even the care that we provide, these are certified home health aides, but they're not nurses. So if you have a condition which requires like a nurse, a medical nurse, or more that requires really that kind of attention, then it's probably going to make it so impossible to stay at home and not get the medical attention that you need. So I would say that would be the first thing. It depends on the condition. And then also, so like if your home is not equipped, so even if you don't, so the next situation is, even if you don't have that severe medical requirement, but your home, like Olga was saying before, if you had a two-story home and there was no way to convert things so that there's a way for you to have everything on the same level, and there's no bathroom on the ground floor. So if there's certain conditions that then, and there's just no way to create a space for you to have a bathroom or anything that makes it comfortable for you to do that, then yeah, then that also realistically, you know that you can't stay in a two-story home forever without making any changes. So like in that situation, if you feel that the expense of major renovation or just the resources needed to do that isn't possible, then that's also another situation where you have to think that in the long run, it might be better off for you to not stay at home. As much as I said, that's what I would advocate, but we always need to be practical. And let me think, maybe a third situation too is like, if you're the type of person that wants social interaction, if your personality is the type that craves community and being with people, then, and even if you may everything else, you had all the resources, the financial resources to stay at home, everything is set in place, but you know in your heart that you're lonely, that having a one caregiver is not going to be enough for you, then that's also a situation where you just have to really be honest with yourself and say that you're probably better off in a community where you have the social interaction. So yeah, that's a totally different scenario where, as I've said, you have all the financial resources to stay at home, but then there's a component where your personality requires constant stimulation with other people. Because like, yeah, like there are assisted livings which it's like being a resort so that where you could cultivate friendships. So it's also really understanding your own self and knowing what's going to make you happy. At the end of the day, this is your golden years, and you need to, at this point in your life, you need to be able to do whatever it is that brings you that last piece, brings you peace at the end of your life. And whatever it is, don't, whether or not your family agrees with you or not, it's your decision. And you have to honor and respect your decision. And in the end, you'll know what's best for you.
And you know what's interesting? I recently done some reading on that's something that I'm going to be talking to a lot of my clients, is the longevity challenge. A lot of people are thinking that they're, right now the average age expectation is like 78 and 80, and women tend to typically live longer. And there's a lot of the longevity studies that are being done right now where experts are expecting seniors to live well into their 90s.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the reason is because of the advances in technology and as well as in medicine. So a lot of people are not planning for that either. And this is where the conversation is, how is your health? And do we have enough money to make it last? And is your home again still going to be that safe haven that you are hoping that it's going to be? So I really want you to think a little bit deeper today, not just in the sense of, do I just stay, but also you're planning for, or for another 20, potentially 30 years, depending where you are in your life journey, which is like almost the same amount of time as we spend working as you're going to be spending in your golden years. So just some other food for thought that I recently did some research, and I found some interesting articles that people are not thinking about, that they're going to live a lot longer than what a lot of people realize.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, yep.
For sure. All right. Well, anybody has questions for Tina, this is your opportunity to ask a home care expert on anything. You know what, Tina, I wanted to ask you, what is the difference in hourly rate for someone who is just an aide versus a nurse? What are those rates? Because I know there's a difference between the professionals.
You mean like a nurse, like an RN, a registered nurse?
Right.
Well, first of all, a regular home care agency, we don't provide nurses for care. Nurses, we have nurses, but all they do is to do the assessments. So before every care starts, a nurse comes out to do an assessment and writes a care plan for you. So, but meanwhile, so home care agencies, non-medical home care agencies usually do not provide nurses. It would be the healthcare companies. That's the difference. The healthcare companies that provide nurses for hourly care. But I would say, I think hourly rates right now for nurses is about 95 to 150 per hour. So it's just something that it's not feasible for anyone. Like it's very
And if,
expensive to hire
and
nurses.
if I'm a senior doing my research, are there companies that provide, I know that there are companies like visiting physicians that will have visiting doctors.
Yeah.
Are there companies that provide nurses that can do the same thing?
Yes, yes.
Visiting
As
nurses?
I've said, yeah. Some visiting nurses is VNA is one of them, and medical. Because as we said, we're a non-medical home care agency.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us are non-medical, but there are medical home care agencies like Bright Star. Bright Star, they provide nurses as well as PT, physical therapy. But yeah, they're also all private pay though. So that's the thing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
But that can all be the care if somebody is truly at home and they're not able to get out, they can get that care, but it's still, again, it's the matter
Yep.
of having that cost out of your pocket, right?
And normally when people need a real nurse at home to come, it's usually not for care. It's usually, let's say, just to do like an IV, like something that a nurse would come out for an hour. But it's not like somebody providing care for 8 hours or something, because that's just nobody is able to afford that. So if at all, sorry, it would be again for medical things that they need to do.
Got it. Yep. All right. Anybody has questions for Tina? I hope that this was helpful because it's always nice to hear from someone like boots on the ground, right? You're there every day working with seniors and their families and helping them have a safe stay in their home and get the care that you need. So if you are welcome to, you're welcome to unmute yourselves or post your questions in the chat. And let me see if anybody had any questions when they registered as well. Let me just see what we have. Okay. Yeah, there were no questions that were listed. So, oh, well, one of the questions was how my home can be safe as I age. So I think we talked about making the modifications and renovations to the home for sure. And that's where taking the home safety assessment will be a really good idea, is to try and talk and figure things out. All right, everybody, if there are no more questions, thank you so much for being here. Tina, appreciate your time very much for coming on today and sharing information. And I'm going to share your contact information if anybody's looking for services and would like some professional advice. We're going to provide that.
Absolutely.
Olga, before you go.
Yep, but hi, Don, you have a question?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. If somebody's going to buy long-term care insurance, they offer different periods of coverage, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it might be. Is there a common or a customary or reasonable length? I mean, everybody's different. Nobody's got a crystal ball. I know that.
Wait, you're talking to Dawn, right? Is that Dawn?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Don. Yes, it's Don.
Yeah. But my first question is, you've actually spoken to someone and they were able to give you a quotation? I'm just curious.
No, I have it already, but I have
You
the
have it. So
yeah,
you
but
do have a policy now?
yes, I've had it for years, but I have the opportunity to change the length of coverage.
Well, it's really something that's hard to, I can't give an exact answer for that because every case is different. And once again, and I know it costs a lot of money to do it, right? And
Yeah.
so the longer the term is the rate, does the rate get lower for you the longer your term?
Well, it's the other way around. Well, yeah, it's sort of the other way around. The shorter it gets, the cheaper the rate is. See,
Yeah, because
I can shorten the length. I can't extend it anymore, but I could
I
shorten.
know, and that's the difficult part of insurance. So I think,
I
I have to say the way that insurance works, right? Like if you can afford it, then of course you want insurance forever because that's what insurance is supposed to do. right? But I know that, yeah, financially, that's what's make it difficult. I know that most of my clients, they've had insurance that they purchased years ago, which is to perpetuity, which I guess that's the most ideal. But, you know, the long-term care, it's good when you got it way, way, way like 30, 20, 30 years ago, that now that's the big difference, I guess, that you benefit more if you got that insurance a long time ago, and that you have the maximum benefit, because you don't really know how long you're going to need it. Except that what I just noticed though, because a lot of my clients who have long-term care, who have limited amount of time, right? Like what you do, you said you only have a few years. The problem with that is that because you know it's limited, most of them don't even want to get to start the policy. They don't, because they're afraid that by the time they actually need it, they won't have any left. And so it becomes like this challenge where you try to hold off from starting the policy to start, so that because you're worried that you're not going to be able to use it eventually. But then by waiting that long enough, sometimes that opportunity never comes, because the policy owner, you know, something happens to the policy owner before they even get to use the policy. So
Yeah.
I'd have to say that, you know, as soon as, you know, there's a little chance, a little reason for you to use it for home care, you might as well use it. Because what I've seen though is that a lot of those who try to hold off from using their policy end up not using it at all because they were too afraid to start using it. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I've seen that happen a lot, that, you know, they try to hold off because they're worried that they're not going to be able to use it by the time they actually need it. But then you don't know if that time will ever come, because something can happen to you tomorrow, and then you never use the policy to begin with. So it's, I know it's very tricky, and I know that's not a very helpful answer to you, but yeah, I hope it kind of, I don't know, I'm sorry, because I don't think the answer was really what you expected to hear.
I don't think there really is an answer.
Yeah.
Not unless I had a crystal ball, you know, and
Yep.
knew if I'd need it, when I need it, and how long I need it for. I was
Yeah. But
curious if there's, yeah, I'm
yeah.
curious if there's a typical, not that that means anything, but there's a typical length of time that most people go for.
Yeah, as I've said, most that I've been handling so far, they've had it for years, the ones that I have in long-term care. I had one or two wherein the policy was limited, but again, as I've said, that was a sad reality for them though, because I had one that held off to starting the policy, and then the client passed before they even started. The client, when
Yeah,
she finally decided to do it, was only 1 week that they used the long-term care, because she passed before she could take full advantage of the policy.
yeah. I mean, that's the big, those are the unanswerable questions, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle is
Okay.
that actually another senior specialist that is on this call. She writes the long-term care rates with Genworth, which is one of the insurance companies, are going up 261% in certain areas, and it makes
Wow.
having the policy unrealistic. So even after you have paid into it for 25 to 30 years, so her suggestion is to start using it as soon as possible when the policy allows you, and then you can work with your doctor to start drawing on it and using the benefits, or checking with the agent at least about options, you know, and then talking about kind of like your own personal circumstances.
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds like Genworth wants to get out of the business. A lot of insurance companies have. They found out it cost them a lot more than they expected.
100%. And they're changing plans, and they're really cutting down on the benefits and the length of time, because they know that people are also living longer, right? That's what
Yep.
we were just talking
Yep.
about. The longevity
Yeah.
plays right into it. Yeah.
Very true. And you know, if you have the policy too, just make sure you really talk to them first before using it, to understand what are the different requirements, because a lot of times they can deny it, and it seems that, you know, so just make sure you understand what all the requirements are, so it's met when you start using it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much
Okay.
for Don, thank you for your question as always. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. This is not an ending topic. I think we're going to keep going and talk about it and try to help you every month as you try to navigate the best planning as possible for your golden years. Tina, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you very much, your professional expertise.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys at another time on another workshop. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.